You know, the Russian intelligence services are very clever. And so what you want to do, if you were actually trying to figure out if there's someone that you can gain access to a campaign, and by the way, some notion that they weren't trying to get access to someone in the Clinton campaign, we ought to make sure we all understand they would try to penetrate any, a Senate run, they're going to be engaged in this activity. So they're going to try to send someone. I found it interesting that they would say it was from the government. And a lot of times they call it a dangle in the intelligence business. I'll dangle out enough information so that if you take the meeting, I know I'm going to get a second meeting or a third meeting if you've taken that first step. So that's, my guess is investigators are going to follow on what happened next. Not that he took the meeting. He was a fairly neophyte in both national politics and certainly in the intelligence business. So what happened next? Right. That's going to be a very key question to answer in the investigation. But again, that's why when a foreign government says that they have information for you that isn't related to some business arrangement that you already have, then it's time to pick up the phone and call somebody who knows what they're doing.
So, Chairman Rogers, let me just ask you a few questions for people at home. Mike Rogers, a former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, also a former FBI official. So I understand the cutout idea, the idea that if the Russians are going to reach out to the Trump campaign, they're going to do it through this oligarch and his son who are already acquainted with the president. That's typical Russian KGB or the successor organization stagecraft. Then I also understand the dangle, which you just talked about. But would it be normal to do one of these meetings and then not actually provide anything, which is what both Natalia Veselnitskaya and Donald Trump Jr. say happened? I don't know that that's what happened, but that's what they say. Wouldn't they provide something?
It depends. Now, there may have been people in the meeting that they were not anticipating to be in the meeting. That may have thrown them off. But the most important part of that meeting would have been, if this were a Russian operation, if they weren't going to go directly into that meeting and try to do something there, is to say, hey, we need to have a follow-up meeting on that information. Who do we talk to? And so that's what I meant. The investigators are going to look at what happened next. Did they say, we want to meet with other people that may have been in the meeting that isn't even reported yet? We don't know. That's what you'd look for. Or that follow-up email, follow-up phone call, follow-up contact saying that information can be delivered, and by the way, we want you to meet X, Y, or Z.
Don Jr. made the point that that never
and it may have never happened. That's what I'm saying. They may have made the assessment when they went in. So all of these will be assessed, right? So the intelligence services will look at that and say, okay, maybe this is not the right way to do it, but we took a shot at it. But again, as much information that was in that email tells me that they were looking for something subsequent to that. Could they find a way? And by the way, it didn't have to be witting either. It doesn't mean that anyone who walked into that meeting was witting to working with the Russian intelligence service. I don't believe that at all. Matter of fact, the Russians would prefer that you would be an unwitting access point. And that happens a lot, unfortunately, across the government. Yeah, it's much easier to manipulate. There's always distance between them and the intelligence service. And the information that they get gives them other leads in a way that doesn't compromise that individual and allows them to do their work. So to me, when I looked at it and you look at the email chain and you look at exactly how they did it, how they got this person this close, the cutouts that they used to get them there, you say, boy, somebody was thinking through an operation. Doesn't mean it was successful, doesn't mean that they walked into this meeting thinking they were working with the Russians. I think that's